In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make deep house. If you do end up enjoying this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. It really does help me out. Also, if you want to download this FLP, there will be a link in the description, along with a deep house drum kit, which is going to have all the sounds you need to start making your own tracks. Without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, first thing I did was opened up June 3, and I went into June 3 Factory, went into Chords, and I found this Chords slumber. So all I did was literally place down two notes, A and an E. Oh, and by the way, the BPM of this track is 128. For house, I would stick to around 120 to 135. Pretty self-explanatory, but then I did some editing to it. So all I did was firstly exported it, and how you do that is selecting the pattern that you want to export into an audio and holding Control-Alt-C if you're on Windows, and then hit enter or start here, and this will basically just render out the clip. Then all I did once I rendered it is decided to chop it up and add a vinyl stop to the end of each thing. For the vinyl stop, there's loads of different plugins that you can use for this. Some good ones is Isotope Vinyl if you're looking for a free option, or I personally used Effectrix. Then all you want to do is just go here, click on vinyl, drag it out, and I turn down to the time to 1.5. This is how it sounds. Then what you want to do with this melody is basically sidechain it. And the reason we're going to be sidechaining it is because we're going to be sidechaining it to the kick, because house is like built all around the kick. Now, there are some plugins you can use to speed up this process, but for this tutorial, I'm just doing it with automation as it's free and anybody can do it. But a good plugin that I would really highly recommend is Kickstart. I'm pretty sure it's only like $10, but it helps so much with automation, especially if you're like trying to make house seriously. But you see, all I've done is create some automation and just made the starts go up like this. And it's very simple to do this. All you want to do is double click on it, go to the volume, right click and click create automation clip. Then a pattern should go up. Top tip, instead of just clicking randomly like this, if you always want it to be at the exact same level as this here, just go right click here, copy value, paste it in here, and then drag this one down. And then it'll always be the same volume level. And then you can add a bit of a curve. I personally haven't for this, but that's just up to preference. Okay, and then the next thing I added, which is one of the most important things, is the kick. Now, the kick, if you use my drum kit that I have linked in the description, all the kicks are really nice in that, and I would recommend them. But all you want to do is put it on the first beat of every thing like this. Another top tip with the kick is to find the key of the kick and tune that to either the bass notes or the melody. So the way I would do that is you'd go up to your kick, go to the waveform, right click on it, click edit in audio editor, click this knob here, and then go detect pitch regions. It's an F3, G sharp, and E. So that kind of gives me the general gist to like what to stick around when creating the bass. So I would just personally keep that in mind, and you can always re-pitch up and down your kick to make it fit your bass. Next thing I'm going to add is a clap. So once again, very simple with the clap. I just put it on every bar here, and then at the end I added two here. I also added some reverb to the clap. I did this on a bus. A bus basically allows you to send multiple inserts or instruments. So it really helps put your instruments in the same kind of like room and sound. For my reverb, I'm using Vintage Valhalla reverb on the gated chamber preset. But honestly, any reverb will work. But all you want to do once you have a track with reverb on it, I personally would name it verb or something just so you keep track of everything, is you just want to go click on the track you want to add reverb to, and then click down on the actual reverb track, and then the amount of reverb you want is this knob here. Then another thing I do with the claps is I automate some delay. So for the delay, I just use the default Fruity Delay 2, set it to normal, put the time there and the volume up a bit. But what you want to do is automate this to random parts of the loop, just so there's some variation in the claps. So for my automation, I did 2 bars, but I'll let you hear how this sounds. The next thing I added was some hi-hats. I used a shaker and hi-hat loop and chopped it up. So the original loop sounded like this, but I obviously didn't like the clap, so all I did was just cut out the clap that comes with this loop, and now it sounds like this. And once again, I also added a little bit of reverb on the same bus, so it fits in the same room as the other drums. So that's basically it for the drums. Altogether, it should sound like this. Okay, next let's move on to the bass. Okay, now the bass is probably one of the more harder parts, but once again, if you're looking for good bass sounds, my drum kit does have a bunch of good bass sounds. If you don't have Serum or you just want to use one shot, very easy, just drag and drop. But for this track, I used 2 different bass sounds. I use this one here, and I use this one here. And all I did with these two is I added 2 different EQs. This is a bit extra. It's not that needed, but basically on the first one, I cut out all the lows, so it's just the highs because I preferred the highs on that. And for the other one, I just removed where I boosted, so together they sound like they work together quite nice. But this is a bit extra, you don't need to do this. Once again, my drum kit will have good sounding sounds in them, which are already pre-mixed, so this part's done for you. Normally what I would recommend is just going and finding like the first root note of the melody and like not finding out the notes. Don't care about the notes, just try to create some kind of groove with the bass. So you see here like how it doesn't change the notes and how it just like loops the dum dum. Just find a groove like that. And I'll play the drums whilst doing it. And then once you've found that kind of groove, then you want to start messing around with the notes and changing up a few things. But mainly the step one would be to find some kind of groove or pocket that fits in with your drums, because it's all about like the bounce and groove when it comes to house. And if you're struggling to find like the notes that you need to play for your bass, I would recommend pitching up a few octaves and then listening to it like that with the main melody. It makes it a lot easier to hear bass notes and what notes you need to actually hit. And then all I've done with the bass after that is I sidechained both of them again, the exact same as the melody, so it's silent when the kick happens, because the kick should be basically the only thing that's heard apart from the hi-hats in this beat when the kick happens. It sounds like this with the automation and everything. So altogether so far, this is how the track is sounding. So the next thing I added was a vocal loop. There's many ways of going around this. You could look on Splice, you could just look up old acapellas, you could sample stuff. This is basically up to you with your creativity on how you want to find vocal samples. So all I've done there, this is basically for the chorus. For this vocal loop, it was a lot different at the start, so it didn't have all the cuts and stuff. But all I did was found like my favorite parts and just chopped it up. This is basically, this you just have to experiment when it comes to like chopping up vocal loops and stuff like that. But one thing that always stays the same is you definitely want to sidechain the vocals, or at least just sidechain it for the chorus. So exactly the same as on the bass and on the melody, just sidechain the vocals again. For the mixing of these vocals, I'll just quickly briefly go over what I've added. So firstly, I've added some auto-tune. Depending on if you've recorded this live or not, I don't know, it could be like mixed already, so you can skip this part. But yeah, I just set some auto-tune, just a bit of pitch correction. Then I added an NS1 noise suppressor, then a de-esser, and then EQ. The main things you want to do on an EQ is remove all the lows, maybe add some highs. It's very different with different types of artists and different microphones and stuff, so you really have to like go through and listen and like just listen to a bit, like boost up the EQ, listen to things and think to yourself, is that nice or not nice? And then remove it if you don't like it, or add it if you do like it. And then I used some compression, and then some more compression, and then some even more multi-band compression, just mainly for the highs. And then I used a Pultec. Then I used CLA Vocals, very debated plugin, but I personally use it quite a bit. And then I added a Flangus and just turned down the mix of it. And then I sent this to another track and I added some delay, some ping pong delay. And then I sent all of that to a reverb, the same reverb as the drums once again to fit it in the same room. Now that's basically it for most of the beat. The only other things I've done is I added a white noise right at the start. And I also added just some plucks and stuff. And then I also added this synth sound with some delay on it. And once again, with all these sounds, you also want to be side chaining them. So yeah, and then it's just basically down to arrangement. Normally house songs are quite long, so you really want to slowly, gradually build stuff in and have drops. I'm not going to go into how to arrange today, but I've just done a quick little arrangement here, just a little beat cutout and stuff. But yeah, that is basically it on the tutorial. If you did enjoy, please do like and subscribe. Once again, the drum kit will be linked in the description with the FLP. Thank you very much for watching. I'll play the full track now. But anyways, thank you. Goodbye.